Oh my god, I just shouted into the microphone.
Me too. You're gonna enjoy listening to that.
Yeah. In my earlobes. Okay, let's get started. So, hey guys, welcome back to the Out of Luck podcast. Here meeting in different time zones just for you, bringing you the buzz from Tel Aviv all the way to Amsterdam. I'm Fawn.
And I'm Nitzan, and welcome to our very first official episode. We're so excited to have you here.
Yeah, so our first episode today is on adulthood. Hope you're as excited as we are.
So, as we said at the end of the last episode, we have multiple subcategories. The first one being adulthood.
Yeah, and we just wanted to I don't know if you think the same. If you think the same, you can tell me if you think the same. So basically, adulthood is I feel the category that most branches out. Like every other subcategory relates to adulthood, which is why I think it's a good place to start. And it starts with an A, so.
I didn't even think of that. Okay. So today's episode is pretty much confirming that it's okay to not know what you're doing. First of all, tomorrow is Fawn's birthday, everybody.
Tomorrow is my birthday, yeah.
So talking about adulthood.
But probably by the time that we put this out, it's on the 23rd of February. But by the time we put this out, it's not that day anymore, so too late.
So wish her a belated happy birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll still take it.
So what is being an adult? Let's start there, because when we grow up, we learn that being an adult is pretty much when you turn 18, right? But I really disagree with that, because I think we were thrown into adulthood at a way younger age than 18 with some subjects in our life.
And I also feel like with adulthood, we don't mean we are adults. We mean the process of entering into adulthood. Let's say it like that better. And yeah, like Nitzan says, you're really expected, or I feel it's more in yourself, you know, because when you're 18 or when you're turning 18, everybody's like, oh my God, that's when you finish high school. That's when you graduate. That's when you go off to university or do whatever you want to do after. But then at the same time, now that I'm 23 or almost 23, people are riding my ass about how I'm still young. And it's okay, but then technically I'm an adult because I have to do shit by myself. I work, I do all of this stuff. And then people are still calling me a baby. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you can still be young but be an adult at the same time. But I think, okay, first of all, I know what you mean. It's so annoying that people always have to comment on the age. But also, like what you were saying is, we have our own expectations of what being an adult is when you're 18 and you move out and you go to college and whatever. But I think it also changes across different places in the world with the different ways that it's normal, quote unquote, to be raised. Because for us, it was very obvious that at 18, we were going to move out of the house and not only move out of the house, but move to a different country. That was something that was very obvious to us and to most of the people who studied with us in school.
We went to international school, by the way.
But I feel like for people in Israel, for example, it's normal to live at home with your parents until you're engaged. And then only when you're engaged or married do you move out with your significant other. So I feel like it's very different. And the reason we grew up with the expectation of moving out at 18 is because we went to an international school in Thailand. And we went to a very what some would call prestigious school, in my opinion. But nobody stays. The few people that do stay in Thailand are in very specific career fields.
Yeah, our school, I don't know if everybody knows. We did the IB, and the reason why I specifically did the IB was to be able to come and study in the Netherlands, because then if I didn't do it, the credentials wouldn't have covered it. If you're going to America or something, you would do, what was it, AP?
AP, yeah.
Yeah, AP. So it's going to an international school, all of the friends that you have, you can't really go back to see them because they're now also in a different country, you know? And yeah, some people still have their parents or their siblings still studying in Thailand, and then that's why they go back. But I also feel there was like a good mix between like really American and also Europeans at our school. Now looking at, because of course you still follow everybody and you still see what they're doing from time to time, and you really see that like the Americans, they really go to America and then they have this whole like how do you call it, like frat life,
like
with,
support system.
So like they have like all their schools, like everything's on campus, everything's like you go to class and you have a you're staying with your friends, blah 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 blah, where
and the dorm rooms and
exactly like and that. Coming to Amsterdam, I sort of had that option, but at the same time no. Like I lived with my sister when I initially moved here, and you know, our school is just like you go to school and then you go home, you find, and if you don't have accommodation, you find accommodation. Like you can go to school and they can help, like you can go to the university, they can help you out, but you're really like thrown into the deep end. At least that's how I felt, because when I moved here it was like, okay, you're going to live with your sister and then you're going to school and then you need to be able to figure out everything new by yourself, whereas in America they have it better because it's like a whole system for them, you know, and they're guided more properly through it. And but on the other hand, I do think that that's a reason why I did become like rather independent, because I had to, you know, sort of sort it out for myself, figure it out, and like just maneuver myself through the city and through making friends and understanding. Maybe I had a culture shock and I didn't even know, like, because I just realized like in Bangkok you have your friends that you go to school with, and you know, I never had to make friends like when I moved here, and I'm not the most extroverted person. And also it doesn't really it's gonna sound bad, but it doesn't really matter to me if I'm alone or if I have somebody to like hang out with, because I feel getting to know people and making new friends is just so overwhelming and it's stressful. So I don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah. I also feel like in school we like what you said, we didn't have to go out of our way to make friends. We had friends in our classes, and those same friends did after school activities with us, and those same friends did sport training with us, and those same friends went on school field trips with us. And also specifically in our case, like we had a really big group of people who didn't move because we went to an international school. People were always moving around, but in our specific age group, there were people who were with us from preschool all the way through senior year. Whether they were our friends or not, they were familiar faces that we would walk around the hallways and know, like, oh, we could say hi to them. Or, like, if we need someone to sit with, we can sit with them. And, like, because we had a school with so many, like, Americans, Canadians, Australians, and Europeans, and, like, people from all over the world, I feel like the group of people who did move to the U.S., despite the fact that they also had maybe a easier way going in because of the frats and sororities and the support from the unis, they also had each other in a sense where on breaks they could always see each other and they were close to each other and they weren't far.
Yeah. And like of course like the US is a huge place, but at the same time it's, for me at least, it's not like I have to fly to go see you in Israel, you know, or you come to me. You can at least drive there or maybe take the plane. I don't know. I've never been to America, but it's just like you're all going there and, you know, you're sharing the same lifestyle. You're sharing the same, like, of course not friend groups and stuff, but at the same time, you're like, you went to the military.
Exactly.
You know? And like you didn't do uni at the same time that I did uni. I finished uni and you finished the military, and everything was so different, you know? So I feel like that's also part of why we lost like track a little bit of where we are. It's also weird, like, so I feel like if you don't, it's not that you don't make a conscious effort to make friends. For me, at least, I didn't make a conscious effort to make friends. And then it came to like stab me in the butt a little bit later because it took me so long to learn how to, you know, step out of my boundaries and like meet people. But then also you do realize that like some people that are your friends and stay your friends, how you met them was like a really random way, because I met Lily. So Lily is one of my close friends, and I met her at uni, and I had come back from something that happened. something that happened, so mysterious. But I came back and then I just asked her, I was like, hey, is this like the specific class that I'm supposed to be at, or like is this class? And she was like, yeah. And then she recognized, I think she read like the name list or something. She's like, oh my god, are you fun? And it turns out that literally she went to school in Bangkok and she knows Nitsan because Nitsan dated a friend of hers. So yeah, maybe I have to beat that up.
But yeah, so it's true. And also like going back to what you said before about having to make a conscious effort to like make friends, and also having like a culture shock. For you, like, you went to uni, but for me, I moved here and I had joined a program that helps foreigners move to Israel and have an easier process to move into the army. So I was kind of thrown into a group of people, 16 people who had already been friends for a year beforehand, and they had moved in to live together, and it was me and 2 other people who were put in their group, and we didn't know anyone, and we were kind of the outsiders, and they were all from Florida, and I was from Thailand, and the 2 other girls who were with me were from Hong Kong, and we were looked at a little bit weird, and like they were kind of making fun of us a little bit for being Asian, because it does sound a little bit weird, like, oh yeah, I moved to Israel to join the army from Thailand, and it's like, but you're not Thai, and then all those kind of questions come up. And at first I had a really difficult time because I had a culture shock between, like, with the Americans. I wasn't used to, like, that sort of American, because in our school it was very mixed, so you didn't really feel the culture shock. And then all of a sudden I was whoa, I'm really in this, like, hardcore. And it was like in the movies, like the parties we were having were like in the movies and everything. And then after 3 months, everyone had drafted, and I had like a more difficult journey drafting into the army. I had like a not very good experience in the beginning, and then I drafted, and I was put in a group of 76 girls for basic training. And the first 3 days was just all the girls crying nonstop how much they missed their moms and they missed their beds at home. And here I was living in a shack in the far north of Israel with no TV, no nothing, like in the basic of the basic, and these girls are complaining that they miss their moms, and I hadn't seen my parents in 6 months at that point. For me, that was the biggest culture shock. Was I hated all the girls in my course. I was like, stop fucking crying. Stop crying, you little bitches. Like, I was so annoyed.
Stop fucking crying. Stop crying, you little bitch.
It was so hard for me to want to be friends with any of them because I felt like they didn't understand me. I felt like, why are they crying that they missed their mom? They saw her 2 days ago, and I haven't seen mine in 6 months. And then the friends that I did make in that group of girls were 5 girls who were also foreigners, 1 from Hong Kong, a few from LA, and those became my friends. And then I was switched into another base. And in that other base, it was a whole different level of culture shock, because all of a sudden I was in charge of soldiers who came from rough backgrounds and were swearing all the time and were throwing stuff and burning papers in my face, and people who were in and out of juvie and whose parents were sitting in jail. And I had never interacted with anyone at that social level. Like, being from a prestigious school in a fancy private neighborhood to that, it was completely, and I had 3 months where I didn't exchange a word with anybody.
And it's not that like you're looking at them differently. It's just that you've literally not been put in a situation that the people around you have been through what they've been through, you know? So it's not that you're just like, oh my god, my family's going off on WhatsApp. but it's not that you're like looking down on them. It's just that you're trying to like wrap your head around how to deal with the situation when you've never had to deal with something.
I'd never experienced anything like it before. So my first 3 months there was literally not, I didn't talk with anyone except for my mom on the phone, because I didn't know how to talk to, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah. And it's also that fear of like people thinking that you're weird. Of course you have your own quirks and shit, right? So like maybe you have like a lot of insecurities. You know, you have a lot of insecurities that you didn't really realize because you didn't have to make a conscious effort to. For example, by the way, I want to like just say that the reason why we're talking about this is because we feel like nobody knows what they're actually doing because of the fact that there's a huge transition and nobody really talks about how difficult it is, and nobody really talks about how, like, you're in class in high school, they don't teach you like, oh, this is how you make friends when you get to uni. They just teach you like education. They just teach you math, they teach you English, they teach you whatever you want to learn, whatever you pick to learn. But there are also social skills that would have, if they would have been more openly talked about at a younger age, or there was more of an effort to, I mean, they could have done things in high school, right, where they're just like, okay, everybody comes together and just talks to like different groups of people. Because I feel at our school especially, there were like lots of not so-called cliques, like not mean girl vibe, like not like, oh, tables at the cafeteria. Well, kind of tables at the cafeteria, but everybody had sort of their friend group that they would like gravitate towards. But then if those were merged more, it would have been a lot easier to
I think there's only so much like you can do in high school to prepare you for that, because honestly I think our school like did a really good job at like having like the grade, I don't remember what they were called, but like when we had like the games like when it would be like grade 9 versus grade 10 versus I think our school did do a pretty good job at that. But I think it should be more talked about that it's not that easy to make friends after high school.
Yeah, it's really not that easy. And also, because I play sports, and the place where I play sports, I play with like a huge age range of people. And there's lots of like guys in their 30s and stuff. And yeah, at first I was pretty apprehensive about like being friends with them, because I always thought that they would never like reciprocate the fact that I want to be friends with them because I'm younger than them. But then, like, excuse my voice, it's not as embarrassing when it happens to girls. That's the weird part. But like when I get to talking to them, we actually have really nice conversation. Like I talked to this one guy on my team and about this situation, like about making friends and stuff. And he's like 30, 31, 32. But he was telling me how he also felt the same, that it's so difficult to find a friend group that actually you don't feel nervous about asking if somebody wants to go and hang out, you know? And that's what I have with like my sports team. Like I have people there that I can ask to hang out with, and I won't feel like, oh shit, they probably think like I'm fucking punching, or like, you know, or I'm trying to get something, or, you know, it's just like a mutual hangout. But then at the same time, like to go back to uni, if I have to think about it, my uni offers, I went to University of Amsterdam, by the way, but they offer a program before your uni starts called Entry Week. And that's basically, you get assigned to a specific group if you sign up for it. And there were some people who didn't sign up for it, which I wasn't going to, but then I was thinking, like, how the fuck am I supposed to make friends? Like, Fawn, you're actually socially awkward, so you can't not do it. And so I signed up for it, and they assign you to a specific group, and then you go to like different events and different like things around Amsterdam with your group, and that's sort of your friends.
Is that how you met,
right?
Kenza?
Those are like,
and Tino?
No, that's the thing. That's how. So my friend group that I ended up making in uni was not the Entry Week group that I started with. But then in the Entry Week group, they have like different events. They have like techno raves, all these type of like different things. And so you can sort of pick and choose what you want to do. I'm not so much a raver or whatever it's called, but so I didn't go to those things, which is fine. But then the problem was that you had to do your first year classes with your group. So if you didn't get along with your group, then, and you had class with them, like, it's not fun for you, you know? And it's not that, like, it's not that I didn't like my group. It's just that there was not really anybody that I connected with.
On a genuine level.
Yeah, and it was, like, the things that, and it's not saying that they're bad people, but it's just, like, their conversations and their topics of interest and stuff, I've never thought about those things before, so I don't really know how to put it into discussion. So I don't know how to talk with them. And then only later when I met Lily, then we had like a weird debate class, and then we just ended up being friends, going for drinks, and that's how I made those friends. You know, they yeah, it's just difficult to make friends. Like, it's difficult to, because you don't want to close yourself off, but at the same time, if you put yourself into a friend group that doesn't have the same common interest as you, then you're gonna be like grasping for like straws, being like, oh my gosh, I need to keep up with all the stuff that they're doing. And
I get that.
How I like to explain it is that, like, I'm not that edgy. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like I'm very normal.
Very basic.
That word again. But, you know, I'm just very, like, I guess you can call it traditional.
Also, now that, like, we're having this conversation, I'm kind of, like, sitting here thinking and realizing that it might not be this hard for, like, everyone. I don't know how the U.S. really works, but, like, I know how Canada works. I know how the U.S. works according to movies, and I know how Israel works, and I know that people don't go to the same elementary school, middle school, and high school. Like, you're in elementary school until 5th grade, and then you switch, and, like, when you switch to the middle school, then sometimes your friends will go to a different middle school.
Oh, like, you switch to a whole new school?
Yeah.
Like,
you don't continue. Building? It's, like, not the same. Like,
I didn't know
So
that.
I always liked the way that ISB worked. And, like, when I tell people, like, yeah, it's pre-K through grade 12, everyone is like, oh, my God, that's amazing. And, like, I always thought that's how all the schools worked until I realized.
Now that you're telling me this, I'm, like, really in shock.
Yeah, so, like, until I realized in Canada where my friends, like, a lot of them, by the way, I'm half Canadian. So my dad is from Montreal, and that's why I might bring up Canada a lot. But a lot of my friends, like, went, for example, to JPPS, that elementary school. And then when they finished elementary school, there they finish in grade 6. Then they have to separate to high schools. And half of them went to Bialik High School, and half of them went to Herzliya High School, and some of them went to Royal West High School. Nobody, like, not all of them continued on. And that kind of makes people have to learn how to make friends, because you switch from after elementary, you switch after middle, and then when you finish high school, you go into college, and, like, it's kind of just like, okay, another change. Another 3 years have passed. In our case, we were in the same school from preschool all the way to grade 12. So for 13 years, we were never the new kids. We never had to learn how to make friends. Maybe there were people who came and went, but we didn't have to learn how to make that effort. Whereas people everywhere else, including the people at our school who, like, would come in middle school and leave in high school, like, they would have to think about that. They have to make friends. Like, we just were never put.
Yeah, like Phil and stuff, huh? Because Phil's one of our friends. They don't even know who Phil is, but Phil came in, like, the middle of the school year.
Yeah, he came in, like, 4th grade at, like, the end of the year. Yeah.
It's so funny that you have, like, exactly specific people that you remember. Like, oh yeah, he was new, but, like, he got along well with everyone. But then for me, I went to ISB my whole life. Like, I never even moved. Maybe I moved from Rosemary to, like, ISB, but then, like, that's not a huge change. And I never had to be the new kid, you know?
Yeah. I was the new kid when I was 4 years old.
And I also feel like because I went to the same school, I'm not saying that I'm a bad child, but I just didn't really give a fuck that I had friends or not. Like, I just wanted to, like, do my own thing, and then whoever was my friend was my friend.
I think it's also just, like, you as a person. You're very, like, an independent person and not reliant on others and whatever. So I think that we grew up a little bit different than other people, and and overall it's been kind of hard for us to.
But it's funny that you say that, because, like, yeah, we grew up different, but I feel like on a general level, regardless of where you came from, whether it's going into a new job, whether it's going into a new sports team, whether you know, whatever you do in life, you, like, always are essentially meeting new people and trying to fit in, you know? And it's a lot more evident now that you're, like, in the real world, because when you're in school, you're, like, in a confined building. Even if you're the new kid, the teacher will introduce you at least to your classmates and stuff, so you don't have to do it yourself. But say, for example, now you're a 30-year-old starting a job at a new place, right? Like, you're the new guy, and the boss might be like, oh yeah, this is, like, Adam or whatever, right? And then now Adam has to go and introduce himself to everybody. And then there might be like that one dickhead that didn't show up for work the day Adam started, and then Adam has to introduce himself again and again and again. And especially going into a place that everybody already knows each other. Because I remember when I started working at like a restaurant in Amsterdam, I went in and everybody who was working there had already been there for like a long time. And I found it like a little bit difficult, or very daunting at least, to try to like find my place there, because I'm like, how can I keep up with that? This person has known this person for like already 4 or 5 years, and they've known me for 2 minutes. Like, I felt the feeling that, oh, they're not going to accept me or whatever. And then the same goes for like my touch team. I started playing touch in Amsterdam when I was like 18, so I was really young, and everybody was a lot older than me, and I had always this mentality that like, how am I supposed to be friends with them? Basically, I'm just here to play touch. That was my mentality. And then it was because that I was like so close-minded to becoming friends with my teammates, that was the reason that I stopped playing touch for quite a while. And then when I went back, it was really nice because I had built confidence. I had gone through a lot more things that made me push myself out of my comfort zone, especially in regards to like meeting people. So then when I came back, it was relatively the same people that I had known when I was 18, but now I was more like reciprocative of being their friend and wanting them to also be my friend. And now it's great. Now I'm friends with them. I think,
as you were saying about that, it was bringing me back to like my first day on my first base in the army when I finished my course. I walked into an office of 16 girls. There were 16 girls and an officer. And one of them was friends with someone who I had met during my course. So when I walked into the office, I joined with another girl. Like, it was me and another girl who joined this office of 16 girls. And when I walked in, everyone like at first jumped on me. At first I was very intimidated because I was bullied in middle school, so I don't really like girls. I don't really get along with them. And as I walked in, 16 girls jumped on top of me, and I was like kind of like, and then they were like, I know that you're from Thailand. I know you're half Canadian. And they like already knew stuff about me because someone who had already met me before had told them, oh yeah, the new girl in your office is, and I like just felt like extremely overwhelmed. Like, why are they coming at me? Like, why aren't you letting me introduce myself? Why are you coming at me? And then, as you were also saying about the ages, and like, I finished the army when I was 21, and recently I started doing a yoga teacher's course. And like, I was the youngest in the course by far. Everyone was in their 40s and 50s, not even 30s. There were like 2 girls in their late 30s, and everyone else was really old. And I hadn't realized that they were all already like instructors. I was very intimidated, and it really blocked me from making friends in the course. It completely destroyed my confidence, and I didn't make any friends in the course. Like, till now, I started it 7 months ago. Until now, I have no friends. And like, when I dropped out of the course, only one person had messaged me to say that I hope you feel better. I dropped out of my course because I broke my foot after breaking both of my elbows this year. Side note.
She can start yoga now, though. She just started yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday. I feel like whenever we say like yesterday or today, we have to like say the date, 21st of February, 2022. Otherwise, they got no clue what's going on.
Yeah, but you're right. Anyways, it's hard to make friends. But it's okay, because along the way, you do make some friends. For me, I've met people that also, you said, I met my closest friends today in the weirdest way. One of my best friends in Israel, his name is Jacob, and he was my soldier, and he used to serve me, make me coffee in the morning. Like, isn't that weird? I used to be in charge of giving him money for rent. That's so weird. And now whenever I'm sad, he's the first person I call here, and he's always there. He's like my best friend here. So it's just a really weird thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, also with Lily, I remember, because she was really nice to me in the beginning, but then we would like say hi to each other when we saw each other in the hallways, and then it would always, do you want to like maybe sit with us? And I was like, okay, cool. Or even sometimes I would like stop and talk to her, and Kenza would also be there. Kenza's my other close friend. and Kenza would also be there, and I would just be like, oh, hey, but then I wouldn't talk to Kenza, and I would just talk to Lily for a solid 5 minutes. And then, so we would like talk in the hallways, but we, for some reason, just didn't hang out. And it was maybe 2 months worth of like just talking, but not hanging out. It was like an online relationship. But then afterwards, we just all of a sudden started hanging out more, and yeah, we got like a lot closer. Yeah. It was really funny because she was my friend for so long.
It's weird, but
before we like became close.
That's like Ilan. He was my neighbor.
Yeah.
And then we just he like asked to borrow something one day, and then we just became friends. And this guy is like a 30-year-old man.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny because I don't actually think 30 is that old now, because most of my friends from my team are 30. The fact that you're like 30 is so old, and I'm like, no, 30 is kind of okay.
Also, like, think about the fact that like you went to uni and finished uni at when, like 21?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So you like finished uni and like then you were set out to the real world. You had to get a job, and but like for me, I was in the army with 18 to 25-year-olds until I was 21, and then when I got out of the army, that's when I started having to work and whatever. And like for me, I was working at high-tech companies. I was being made fun of for being a baby, not in a nice teasing way. I was being bullied for being like the youngest, because the second youngest person after me was 39 years old. Yeah. So because I kept having these comments being like, oh, you're so young. Oh, you're so young. You're such a baby. You're such a baby. Then it made me feel like I can't be friends with older people. It's so frustrating. It's so annoying. And then my oldest friend was 24 years old. Like, that already was old for me, being 21, and I had a 24-year-old friend. And then when I started hanging out with Ilan, everyone else was like, he's really old. That's really weird. And it kind of confuses me because he's the person I relate to and see eye to eye with the most in this country. The most. Like, literally, we think the same way, and it's just weird because he's a lot older than me. But even like being friends with him, like he always says to me, because he's like not 30, he's like 30 but a really old soul. Like, he doesn't have social media, he doesn't have anything other than Facebook, he doesn't like listen to like he doesn't do that kind of stuff.
I think that's a good conclusion. Not that there really was a conclusion, but I think it's just, to wrap it all up, it's just, it's hard to know how to position yourself in the world. And it's also like, we just wanted you guys to know that it's fucking normal. It's fucking normal to find it difficult to make friends, and it's normal to be confused at where you are, and just keep pushing, just keep trying. Somebody's gonna like you one day. And it's also the like hobbies. Find hobbies to do, then you'll meet people from that. That's a tip of the day. Find a hobby. We'll add that to the adulthood episodes.
Okay, so I guess we can wrap up the episode.
Thanks again for listening. You can be friends with us. If you don't have friends, you can fucking be friends with us. How about that?
Yeah, you'll find the one. Look, my one lives in the different country, but that doesn't stop us. We still started this podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media. It will be linked on the link tree in the description.
And you can get to that in the description of this, or if you follow us on Instagram at outofluck.podcast. There's also a link tree there that Nitan made, and it's in our bio. And just maybe a little glimpse into the next episode. Next episode is going to be about dating.
Woo-hoo,
really
dating
exciting.
And dating in the real world.
If you want to, boys, if there are boys listening, or I'm gonna call them boys, if you're listening and you want tips on how to improve your dating profiles, have a listen. I've come up with quite a concrete list for you so far, so have a good time there.
Also, feel free to message our Instagram with any questions that you guys might have.
or like
or about us, or like
well.
topics that you want us to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. And share us with your friends if you thought it was a nice listen.
And give us feedback, but no hate, just nice comments.
Or you can hate, but then like send it to me directly. I need that spice in my life. Okay. Alrighty. Signing off now.
Thank you for listening.
Bye. Bye.